Your phone vibrates. Another message from someone who only reaches out when they need something. Your chest tightens. You know answering will cost you an hour of emotional labor, yet guilt pulls at you. This moment, this exact moment, is where your energy gets stolen, not by force, but by permission you didn't know you were giving. The ancient Stoics understood something we're only now rediscovering. Your attention is your life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Every person you allow into your mental space either adds to your peace or subtracts from it. There is no neutral. And the truth most people avoid? You're not obligated to give your energy to everyone who asks for it. We live in a culture that glorifies availability, being there for everyone, never saying no, sacrificing your peace to prove you're a good person. But the Stoics taught differently. They understood that protecting your inner citadel, your mental clarity, emotional stability, and spiritual strength isn't selfish. It's necessary. Seneca said it plainly. You must linger among a limited number of master thinkers and digest their works, if you would derive thoughts that shall win firm hold in your mind. Today I'm going to show you 10 types of people the Stoics would tell you to ignore, not out of cruelty, but out of wisdom. Not because they're bad people, but because your energy is finite and sacred. Each interaction is an investment. Some people drain your account, others fill it. The wise learn to recognize the difference. Before we begin, I want you to do something powerful. Write this phrase in the comments. I protect my energy intentionally. Don't just read it, write it. Because when you commit in writing, you're making a declaration to yourself. You're acknowledging that your peace matters, that your mental space is valuable, that you have the right to guard what's yours. Let's begin. Person number 1, the constant complainer. You know this person. Every conversation is a catalogue of grievances. The weather is wrong, their job is terrible, their family doesn't understand them, their body hurts, traffic was bad, the world is ending. And here's the key. They don't want solutions. They want an audience for their suffering. I watched this drain my friend Sarah for 2 years. She worked with Amanda, someone who turned every coffee break into a therapy session Sarah never signed up for. Monday morning. I hate this place. They don't appreciate me. Wednesday afternoon. My boyfriend is so thoughtless. Friday before the weekend, I'm exhausted. Nothing ever works out for me. Sarah is kind. She listened. She offered advice. She tried to help. But nothing changed. Amanda's complaints shifted topics but never disappeared. And Sarah noticed something troubling. After every conversation with Amanda, she felt heavier, more tired, like someone had opened her chest and poured concrete into her lungs. The turning point came during a deadline week. Sarah was stressed, behind on a major project, barely sleeping. Amanda cornered her in the break room. I need to vent. My sister is driving me crazy. Sarah, exhausted, said, I'm really sorry, but I'm swamped today. Can we talk later? Amanda's face hardened. Wow, I thought we were friends. I guess I know where I stand now. That guilt manipulation, that's the weapon complainers use when you try to establish boundaries. They make your self-preservation into betrayal. But here's what the Stoics understood. Chronic complainers don't want change. They want sympathy, and your sympathy becomes the fuel that keeps their victim identity burning. Epictetus taught that we shouldn't be disturbed by things outside our control. The constant complainer has made disturbance their identity. Every external event becomes confirmation of their narrative. Life is unfair, people are terrible, nothing works. They're not seeking wisdom, they're collecting evidence for beliefs they refuse to question. Your energy is not infinite. Every hour spent absorbing someone else's negativity is an hour stolen from your own growth, your own peace, your own purpose. The Stoic approach isn't cruelty, it's clarity. You can have compassion for their struggle without making it your burden to carry. Set boundaries. When the complaining starts, acknowledge briefly and redirect. That sounds frustrating. What are you planning to do about it? If they persist, be honest. I'm working on managing my own energy better. I'm not able to be a sounding board right now. If they guilt you, remember, their inability to self-regulate is not your responsibility to fix. Sarah eventually limited her interactions with Amanda. The friendship ended, not because Sarah was cruel, but because Amanda needed a victim, not a friend. And Sarah chose peace over people-pleasing. She protects her energy now. That's not selfishness, that's self-respect. Person number 2, the drama creator. This person doesn't experience life, they stage it. Every situation becomes a crisis. Every disagreement becomes warfare. Every minor issue becomes grounds for apocalyptic reaction. They don't just tell you about their problems, they pull you into the performance. Marcus worked in an office with someone like this. Brian was talented, but every project became a soap opera. A scheduling conflict wasn't a simple fix. It was a betrayal that required emergency meetings and emotional confrontation. A piece of constructive feedback wasn't information. It was a personal attack that demanded defensive battles and alliance building. The pattern was exhausting. Brian would escalate, demand everyone choose sides, extract promises of loyalty, then 2 days later act like nothing happened. Meanwhile, everyone else carried the emotional residue of drama that never needed to exist. The breaking point came during a client presentation. A minor technical glitch occurred, the kind that happens in every presentation, easily fixable. Brian exploded in front of the client. "This is completely unacceptable. Someone sabotaged this on purpose. I can't work under these conditions." The client sat in stunned silence. Marcus had to smooth things over for 20 minutes while Brian stormed out. Here's what drama creators don't understand. Chaos isn't the same as importance. Just because something is loud doesn't make it significant. The Stoics distinguished between what deserves emotional investment and what doesn't. They practiced equanimity, responding proportionally to actual circumstances, not manufactured crisis. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Drama creators live entirely in imagination. They catastrophize, they personalize, they amplify, and they need spectators. Without an audience, drama loses its power. Your attention is what feeds it. The Stoic response: refuse to participate in the performance. When someone escalates, you de-escalate through calm non-reaction. "I understand you're upset. Let's focus on solving this." When they demand you choose sides, remain neutral. "I'm not involved in this conflict. I'm focused on my own work." This doesn't mean you lack compassion. It means you recognize that enabling dramatic reactions doesn't help anyone. It reinforces a pattern that makes their life harder and drains everyone around them. Marcus eventually learned to simply not engage with Brian's theatrics. When Brian tried to pull him into drama, Marcus would say, "I'm staying focused on the work." Brian accused him of being cold, unsupportive, not caring. But Marcus understood. Caring doesn't mean carrying someone else's manufactured chaos. It means maintaining your own center while they work through theirs. Person number 3, the energy vampire. They call when they need something. They disappear when you need support. Every conversation is about them, their problems, their achievements, their needs. Your role is audience, support system, cheerleader, and therapist. But the relationship is never reciprocal, never balanced, always taking, never giving. I experienced this myself. An old friend from college, Rachel, would reach out every few months. Always the same pattern. Her life was falling apart, and she needed to talk. I'd drop everything. I'd listen for hours. I'd offer support, advice, resources. She'd feel better, thank me profusely, disappear again. Then my father got sick. Major health crisis. I needed support. I reached out to Rachel. No response. Days passed. I sent another message. Hey, going through something difficult. Could really use a friend. She responded 3 weeks later with a brief, sorry, been super busy. Hope everything's okay. Then, 2 months after that, OMG, I'm going through the worst breakup. Can we talk? That moment crystallized something I'd been ignoring. This wasn't a friendship. It was an emotional service I was providing, and the moment I needed reciprocity, the service was closed. The Stoics understood the importance of reciprocity in relationships, not transactional keeping score, but natural balance. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the interconnectedness of people serving the common good, but he also emphasized that we shouldn't exhaust ourselves on those who take without giving. Energy vampires aren't necessarily malicious. Often they're just self-absorbed. They genuinely don't realize relationships require mutual investment. They see your generosity and assume it's unlimited. They take your presence for granted because you've never shown them it has boundaries. The pattern reveals itself clearly. You're always accommodating their schedule, never them accommodating yours. You remember details about their life. They forget major events in yours. You celebrate their wins. They barely acknowledge your achievements. You support them through crisis after crisis. When you need support, they're unavailable. Here's the Stoic principle. Your energy is a resource that must be invested wisely. Some people will always take if you let them. Setting boundaries isn't punishment, it's correction. It teaches them that access to you requires reciprocity. I stopped being available to Rachel on demand. When she reached out next time, I was honest. I've noticed our friendship feels one-sided. I'm happy to support you, but I need that support to be mutual. She was shocked, defensive. I'm always there for you. But when I gave specific examples, she couldn't counter them. She said she'd do better. She didn't. I let the friendship fade, not with anger, but with acceptance that some people can't give what you need. Person number 4, the perpetual victim. Nothing is ever their fault. Life happens to them. They're powerless against circumstances. Every failure has an external cause. Every problem has someone else to blame. And any attempt to suggest they have agency in their own life is met with defensiveness and accusations that you don't understand their struggle. My neighbor Jake embodied this completely. Fired from his job. The boss was unfair. Relationship ended. His girlfriend was too demanding. Car accident. The other driver came out of nowhere, evicted from his apartment. The landlord had it out for him. Every story had the same structure. Jake did nothing wrong. The world was against him. He was a victim of forces beyond his control. At first I felt sympathy. Life can be genuinely difficult. Sometimes people do face unfair circumstances, but months turned into years, and the pattern never changed. New situations, same victim narrative, different characters, identical story. Life was happening to Jake, and Jake was helpless to change anything. The turning point in my understanding came during a conversation about his job search. Jake had been unemployed for 8 months. He'd had interviews but no offers. I asked about his approach. "It doesn't matter what I do," he said. "These companies have already decided who they want before the interview. I'm just going through the motions." I suggested he work with a career coach. "I can't afford that. If I had money, I wouldn't need help." I offered to connect him with a free resource. "Those programs don't work for people like me." That phrase, "people like me," revealed everything. Jake had constructed an identity around powerlessness. He'd convinced himself that he was uniquely disadvantaged, that normal solutions didn't apply to his situation, that any suggestion of personal agency was an insult to his suffering. Here's what the Stoics understood that perpetual victims don't. You always have some control. Maybe not over what happens, but always over how you respond. Epictetus divided all things into two categories: what is in our control and what isn't. The perpetual victim makes everything fall into the second category, including their own choices, attitudes, and actions. This isn't about blaming people for genuine hardship. It's about recognizing when someone has made victimhood their core identity, when being helpless becomes how they understand themselves, when powerlessness becomes the story they tell to avoid responsibility. Your energy can't fix this. No amount of support, advice, or encouragement will help someone who's invested in helplessness. They'll reject every solution because accepting one means accepting agency. And agency means accountability. And accountability threatens their entire self-narrative, the Stoic approach. Compassion without codependency. You can acknowledge their struggle without reinforcing their victim identity. When they complain, don't offer sympathy, offer questions. What are you going to do about that? What's in your control here? How can you influence this situation? If they reject every suggestion, recognize you can't help someone who won't help themselves. I eventually stopped engaging with Jake's stories. When he'd start the victim narrative, I'd say, "That sounds tough. What's your plan?" If he said he had no options, I'd say, "I believe you're more capable than you think," and change the subject. He accused me of not caring, but I understood. Enabling his victimhood wasn't kindness. It was making his prison more comfortable. Person number 5, the jealous competitor. They can't celebrate your wins. Your success feels like their failure. They track your progress not with admiration, but with resentment. Every achievement you share is met with minimization, comparison, or subtle sabotage disguised as concern. Lisa experienced this with someone she thought was a close friend. They'd met in graduate school, bonded over shared struggles, supported each other through difficult times. But when Lisa got accepted to a prestigious program, something shifted. Her friend's congratulations felt hollow. "That's great, but those programs are really intense. I hope you can handle the pressure." Over the following months, every positive update Lisa shared was met with qualification. Got a paper published? Nice. Those journals will publish anything these days. Received a grant. Lucky timing. They're probably trying to fill diversity quotas. Started dating someone? Be careful. Smart women intimidate men. It probably won't last. At first, Lisa made excuses. Her friend was stressed, going through a hard time. Didn't mean it that way. But the pattern was undeniable. Her friend wasn't happy for her. Her friend was threatened by her. Every success Lisa had widened a gap the friend couldn't tolerate. The Stoics recognized envy as a destructive force, both for the person feeling it and the person targeted by it. Seneca called envy the sickness of the soul. It poisons relationships because it makes someone else's good fortune feel like your loss. The jealous competitor sees life as a zero-sum game. Your victory is their defeat. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of goodwill toward others' success. The wise person recognizes that someone else's achievement doesn't diminish their own worth, but the jealous competitor can't access this wisdom. They're trapped in comparison, measuring their value against your progress. Here's what makes this type of person particularly draining. They often disguise jealousy as concern. They're not tearing you down. They're just being realistic. They're not minimizing your success. They're keeping you grounded. They're not threatened by your growth. They're worried about you. The manipulation is subtle, but the effect is the same. Your achievements feel tainted, your confidence undermined. Lisa finally confronted her friend after a particularly cutting comment about her new job. "I've noticed you seem uncomfortable when things go well for me. If my success is bothering you, we should talk about that." Her friend exploded, accused Lisa of being self-absorbed, of thinking everything was about her, of abandoning old friends now that she was too good for them. That reaction confirmed everything. The friendship couldn't survive because it was built on equality of struggle. Once Lisa's external circumstances improved, the foundation cracked. Her friend needed her to stay in a similar place to feel okay about her own position. The Stoic principle here is clear. Surround yourself with people who are genuinely happy for your success. Not people who tolerate it, not people who celebrate it while secretly resenting it. People who understand that your growth doesn't threaten theirs, that abundance isn't finite, that excellence in others can inspire rather than diminish. You can't reason with jealousy. You can't fix someone's envy through reassurance. The work is theirs to do. Your job is to protect your energy by creating distance from people who turn your victories into their wounds. Person number 6, the gossip. They traffic in other people's information. Every conversation includes updates about people not present. They collect secrets, spread rumors, manufacture drama by relaying selective information designed to create conflict. And here's the critical part. If they'll gossip with you about others, they're gossiping to others about you. James learned this lesson expensively. He worked with Todd, someone who always seemed to know everything about everyone. In their cubicle conversations, Todd would share insider information: who was getting fired, who was having an affair, who was interviewing elsewhere. James found it entertaining at first. Todd made work interesting, made him feel like an insider. Then James confided something personal to Todd. He was struggling in his marriage, considering counseling, felt embarrassed about it, but needed to talk. Todd listened sympathetically. "Don't worry, this stays between us." 2 weeks later, James noticed people treating him differently. Sympathetic looks, carefully worded questions. Someone asked, "How are things at home?" with a knowing tone. Todd had shared everything, twisted it slightly to make it more dramatic, added his own speculation, used James's vulnerability as currency to buy attention and status in other conversations. James felt exposed, betrayed, furious. When he confronted Todd, the response was predictable. "I didn't think it was a secret. I was just concerned. I thought people should know what you're going through." The gossip always has a justification. They're not spreading information. They're just concerned. They're not violating trust. They're keeping people informed. They're not creating drama. They're helping people understand the situation. But the Stoics understood. Character is revealed in how you treat information about others when they're not present. Epictetus taught that we should speak little and only what's necessary. The gossip does the opposite. They speak constantly and unnecessarily, especially about others. They've made other people's business their entertainment, and in doing so, they create an environment of distrust where nothing can be shared safely. Here's why this drains your energy. You can never fully relax around a gossip. Every conversation must be filtered. Every confidence must be guarded. You're constantly monitoring what you say, wondering how it might be repeated, twisted, or weaponized. The relationship requires perpetual vigilance, which is exhausting. The Stoic response is simple. Share nothing of value with people who traffic in others' information. Keep conversations superficial. Don't confide. Don't engage when they start sharing gossip. A simple, "I'd rather not talk about someone who isn't here," shuts down the conversation without creating drama. James learned to keep Todd at arm's length, surface-level friendly but never vulnerable. He stopped finding the gossip entertaining once he understood he was both audience and content. And he noticed something interesting. Once he stopped feeding Todd information, Todd lost interest in him. The gossip doesn't want friendship. They want access. When you close the access, they move on to easier targets. Person number 7, the manipulator. They don't ask directly. They maneuver. They don't negotiate. They leverage. They use guilt, obligation, and manufactured emergencies to get what they want while making you feel like it was your idea to give it to them. They're master strategists of emotional exploitation. Sarah's mother was like this. Never a direct request, always a setup. I saw the most wonderful apartment today, right next to that restaurant you love. Of course, I could never afford it on my fixed income, but it's fine. I'll stay where I am. Don't worry about me. Translation: pay for the apartment. I was thinking about your cousin's wedding. I know you're busy, but she'd be so hurt if you didn't come. Family is everything, you know. I've sacrificed so much to keep this family together, but of course, you have your own life now. Translation: cancel your plans and attend. Every conversation was a maze of implications, emotional landmines, and carefully placed guilt. If Sarah did what her mother wanted, she was a good daughter. If she set boundaries, she was selfish and didn't care about family. The manipulation was so consistent, Sarah barely recognized it as manipulation. She thought it was just how families worked. The turning point came during therapy. Her therapist asked a simple question: when was the last time your mother made a direct request without attaching guilt or obligation? Sarah couldn't remember a single instance. Every ask came wrapped in manipulation. Her mother had trained her from childhood. You exist to meet my needs, and resisting makes you a bad person. Here's what the Stoics understood that manipulators exploit: the gap between social obligation and genuine duty. The manipulator weaponizes concepts like loyalty, family, friendship, gratitude, all beautiful things, by turning them into chains. After everything I've done for you, a real friend would, if you really cared. These phrases are manipulation's calling card. Marcus Aurelius wrote about discerning true duty from false obligation. The wise person honors genuine commitments without succumbing to manufactured guilt. They understand that being a good person doesn't mean being an available resource for anyone who knows which emotional buttons to push. Manipulators are exhausting because every interaction is a negotiation you didn't agree to participate in. They're playing chess while you think you're having a conversation. They're 3 moves ahead, calculating how to position you into giving them what they want while making you feel like it was your choice. The Stoic response: require direct communication. When someone hints, ask them to state clearly what they want. When they guilt, name the manipulation. It sounds like you're asking me to pay for this apartment. Is that correct? Direct questions disarm indirect manipulation. When they claim you're misunderstanding, stand firm. Then please tell me directly what you're asking for. Sarah eventually set clear boundaries with her mother. If you need something, ask me directly. I'll decide whether I can help based on the actual request, not on guilt or obligation. Her mother called her cold, accused her of abandoning family values, tried the old manipulation tactics, but Sarah held firm. Over time, their relationship became more honest because it had to be. The manipulation no longer worked. Person number 8, the chronic critic. Nothing you do is quite right. Every decision gets questioned. Every choice gets second-guessed. They don't offer this criticism because they care about your improvement. They offer it because tearing things down makes them feel superior. Your failures validate their worldview. Your success threatens it. David worked for a boss like this. Mark never praised anything. Projects completed ahead of schedule. But did you check for these specific edge cases? Successful client presentation. The slides could have been more polished. exceeding sales targets. You just got lucky with timing. Every achievement was diminished, every effort was insufficient. David started second-guessing himself constantly. Before making any decision, he'd think, "What will Mark find wrong with this?" He stayed late, added extra checks, obsessed over details. Nothing helped. Mark always found something to criticize. The pattern became clear during a team meeting. A colleague presented excellent work. Innovative, thorough, effective. The team was impressed. Mark's response, "It's fine, but have you considered these 17 things you didn't do?" The colleague's excitement died. The team's energy collapsed. Mark had successfully taken a moment of achievement and turned it into proof of inadequacy. Here's what the Stoics understood. Criticism from those who create nothing is worthless. The chronic critic isn't offering feedback to help you improve. They're asserting dominance through judgment. They've made criticism their identity. Being the person who sees flaws makes them feel smart, important, valuable. Marcus Aurelius faced constant criticism as emperor. He wrote, "It is not death or pain that is to be dreaded, but the fear of pain or death." He recognized that living under constant criticism creates a fear that's more damaging than the criticism itself. You start preventing yourself from trying, growing, or risking because you're anticipating the judgment. The chronic critic drains your energy by making you question your competence constantly. You develop an internal voice that sounds like them, harsh, dismissive, never satisfied. Every project becomes a source of anxiety rather than growth. You stop trusting your own judgment because theirs has colonized your mind. David eventually realized Mark's criticism had nothing to do with work quality. When David produced excellent work, Mark criticized. When David produced mediocre work, Mark criticized. The constant wasn't the work. It was Mark's need to criticize. Once David understood this, he stopped trying to satisfy an unsatisfiable person. The Stoic response? Separate useful feedback from chronic negativity. If someone offers specific, actionable criticism aimed at improvement, consider it. If someone just tears things down without construction, ignore it. "Thank you for the feedback. I'll consider it," becomes your standard response. No justification, no defense, no emotional engagement. You refuse to let their criticism become your internal reality. David eventually left that job, found a manager who gave balanced feedback, celebrating wins and identifying genuine opportunities for growth. The difference was immediate. His confidence returned, his work improved, because he wasn't spending all his energy managing criticism from someone who would never be satisfied. Person number 9, the time thief. They don't respect boundaries. They show up unannounced. They call at inappropriate times. They monopolize conversations without sensing when you need to leave. They treat your time as theirs, your availability as their right. And when you try to protect your schedule, they act wounded, as if your boundaries are rejection. My neighbor Brenda was a time thief. She'd knock on my door at random hours, during dinner, early mornings, late evenings. Just had a quick question. But it was never quick. The 5 minutes would stretch to an hour. She'd launch into stories I hadn't asked for, complaints I couldn't solve, updates about people I didn't know. At first, I was polite. I'd listen, I'd engage. But I noticed a pattern. Every time she left, I felt behind on my own life. The work I'd planned to do, the rest I'd meant to take, the time I'd reserved for things that mattered to me, all gone, absorbed into Brenda's needs and stories. I tried subtle signals, staying near the door, checking my watch, mentioning my plans. "I'd love to chat, but I'm right in the middle of something." She'd wave it off. "Oh, this will only take a second," then continue talking. When I'd finally excuse myself firmly, she'd look hurt. "I didn't realize I was bothering you." Here's the manipulation time thieves use. They make your boundary into their victimhood. You're not protecting your time, you're rejecting them. You're not managing your schedule, you're being cold. They've reframed basic boundaries as personal offense, and most people, wanting to be kind, collapse their boundaries to avoid making others feel bad. The Stoics understood time as our most valuable resource. Seneca wrote extensively about the shortness of life, not because life is actually short, but because we waste it on things that don't matter. He said, "People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy." Time thieves exist because people let them. They've learned that persistence overcomes politeness, that boundary violators usually win if they just outlast your discomfort. They operate on exhaustion, yours, not theirs. I eventually became direct with Brenda. When she knocked, I'd answer, but stay in the doorway. "I can't talk right now. I'm working." When she'd try to continue, I'd interrupt. "I need to get back to what I'm doing. We can chat another time." When she acted hurt, I held firm. "I'm not available for impromptu visits. If you want to talk, text me first." She called me unfriendly, said I'd changed, told other neighbors I wasn't nice anymore. I felt the guilt she was projecting. But I also noticed something. I had my evenings back. My mornings were mine. My time belonged to me again, and that was worth being called unfriendly by someone who never respected my time to begin with. Person number 10, the false friend. This is perhaps the most painful type to recognize. Someone you believed was genuinely in your corner until you needed them and discovered the friendship only existed on their terms. The false friend is available when it's convenient, supportive when it costs them nothing, loyal until loyalty requires sacrifice. Michael learned this during the hardest year of his life. His business failed. Not a small setback, a complete collapse. Years of work gone, debt accumulated, identity shattered. He'd built relationships with people he'd helped succeed, mentored, supported through their struggles. He'd celebrated their wins, offered advice, made connections, invested time and resources. When his business failed, he found out who his real friends were, and the answer was painful. The people he'd supported were suddenly unavailable. Calls went unreturned. Messages got brief, non-committal responses. Lunch invitations were met with, "I'm swamped right now." The friends who'd had endless time for his help had no time for his crisis. One person particularly stung. Daniel, someone Michael had mentored for 3 years. Helped him get promoted, introduced him to key contacts, supported him through personal problems. When Michael's business collapsed, Daniel went silent. Michael reached out directly. "Going through a rough time. Could use a friend." Daniel's response came 2 days later. "Sorry, man. Going through my own stuff. Hope things work out." Michael later found out Daniel wasn't going through anything. He just didn't want to be associated with failure. Didn't want his own reputation tainted by Michael's collapse. The friendship had been transactional, though Michael hadn't realized it. Daniel valued Michael's success, not Michael. The Stoics distinguished between true friendship and expedient association. Seneca wrote, "One who seeks friendship for favorable occasions strips it of all its nobility." True friendship exists independent of circumstance. False friendship masquerades as real until tested by adversity. Here's how you recognize false friends. They're present when you're successful, absent when you're struggling. They take your help but don't offer theirs. They celebrate wins but disappear during losses. They want access to your resources but not responsibility for your struggles. The relationship is one-directional, though it takes crisis to reveal the direction. False friends are particularly draining because the betrayal comes wrapped in history. You've invested time, trust, and energy. You believed the relationship was mutual. Discovering it wasn't requires grieving both the person and your own judgment. Michael went through this process. Anger first. How could people he'd helped abandon him? Then sadness. The friendships he'd treasured were illusions. Finally, acceptance. This revealed truth, and truth is valuable even when painful. The Stoic approach: value people by their actions in adversity, not their words in prosperity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." Not to be cynical, but to be prepared. To not be surprised when people reveal their true nature. The painful gift of false friends is clarity. They show you who not to invest in. They free up energy for relationships that are actually reciprocal. And they teach you to value the rare few who stay. Those are your real friends. Michael rebuilt his life, started a smaller, more sustainable business. But he rebuilt his relationships more carefully. He watched how people behaved when he had nothing to offer them. Those who stayed became his inner circle. Those who left taught him the difference between networking and friendship. Conclusion: ignoring these 10 types of people isn't about becoming cold or isolated. It's about being intentional with your energy. The Stoics taught that your attention determines your experience of life. Where you focus shapes who you become. And every person you allow into your mental space either contributes to your peace or disturbs it. Marcus Aurelius faced constant demands on his energy as emperor. He couldn't avoid difficult people entirely, but he developed what the Stoics called inner citadel, a protected space within himself that remained calm regardless of external chaos. He chose consciously which battles mattered, which people deserved his energy, which relationships served mutual growth. You have the same choice, every day, every interaction, every relationship. You can give your energy away by default, responding to whoever demands it loudest. Or you can protect it intentionally, offering it to people and pursuits worthy of your limited time on Earth. This doesn't make you selfish, it makes you wise. The person who protects nothing exhausts themselves and helps no one well. The person who protects their energy serves others from a place of strength rather than depletion. Now, I want you to do something. Write that phrase one more time in the comments. I protect my energy intentionally, because it bears repeating, because every time you write it, you're reinforcing the commitment. You're reminding yourself that your peace is valuable, your time is finite, and your energy is sacred. If this resonated with you, subscribe for more Stoic wisdom every week. Share this video with someone who needs permission to set boundaries. And remember, you don't need everyone's approval to live wisely. You just need to honor the truth that your energy belongs to you, and you get to decide how it's spent. See you in the next video. Stay stoic, stay strong, and protect what's yours.